Okay, this was gonna originally be a part 2 video, but I have a lot to go over. I'm gonna show you just where everything is and what you need to take off, just because that's what I would have found really helpful. When I was learning to do all this, I just had to figure it all out. My iPhone had no more storage left, so I'm gonna try it on this tablet. I don't know how good it's gonna come out. I've never even used the camera on this, but so it seems pretty blurry and shaky, but we'll see. Very zoomed in too. Can I zoom this out? Well, okay, so what I'm doing is the coolant tank, the accumulator, evaporator, and the heater core. Plus I'll show you where the vacuum is for the vents for the AC when it gets stuck on defrost. I'll point that out. I might throw a couple pictures in there of me with the HVAC box disassembled so you can see the inside. I'm not sure, but I'll point out where all the bolts are and everything. So there's your accumulator, dryer, your coolant tank. This is the evaporator. There's your heater core. Yeah. So I'd say first step you should try, just because it was by far the hardest and it doesn't matter where you start, is pulling the lines off the AC evaporator and pulling the lines off the heater core. Your heater core lines are down behind the engine, down there in the back. You'll see two like radiator lines, radiator hose lines going into the firewall there, and that's your heater core. And then you got that this line right here, that's your evaporator. And then there's one far below that. That's the other end. So yeah, you're gonna need a special tool for the AC lines. You see, they're like, the AC lines are like this. You get a tool. Tools are like this. This is one version you can get. They open up and they have a little ridge on there. You want to stick the ridge in it like that. So the ridge goes in there, slides in there, and it pops it free. You still are gonna have to wiggle it out a little bit once it's broke free, because it goes that deep into it. So that top one was a pain in the ass. I'll show you what I had to go through to get that top one, because I don't know, it wouldn't fit right or something. I have a ton of those tools, but none of them would work properly. But yeah, that's how I had to get the line off. I cut the actual line for the accumulator. The bottom one seemed to come off no problem. I guess it seemed to just fit a little better, the tool. Of course, they're different size tools. I'd say, so once you get those, everything else is not too bad. Pulling those lines. While you're back here, you might as well pull these if you're doing the evaporator, because you'll see those. There's a nut on there. 7/16 is what I use, socket, to get those. There's 3 of those. You find one at the top there, and then there's one down low on the left side and one down low on the right side. 3 of those type of bolts, and I believe that's it. So once you get all that, you should be able to pull the box out once you get to that portion. Well, the firewall side. I pulled all this just to make it easier. You know, you pull your harness. It's just I think it was a 10 millimeter, and there's ground wires. If you're having a problem with your defrost only coming out of the vents, that's this line. A vacuum. It's right through the same wall as your evaporator, right around there. You're gonna probably want to pull all this off like I did, because it makes it much easier. This top piece, it just has clips like that. You just pull the clips out and it'll come out. I think you had to pull it up. There's just clips at the top. Pull those up. And then the bottom piece had a couple bolts, 2 or 3. There's one right there, and then there's a couple at the bottom. You'll see them. I want to say those are like 5.5 millimeter or something weird. That's what mine were. So I don't know if I want to go with that or just do everything in the engine bay. So with the coolant tank, coolant tank, there's one bullet right there. I think that was like a 7 millimeter or something weird. And then you just pull it up. It's got that clip right there. Pull that up once the bolt is out, and take there's 3 lines, screwdriver there, and the big one. Pull those 3 lines out, 1 bolt pops up, pretty easy. Try not to make too much of a mess. Let's see, that's pretty much everything in here. This was for I ended up breaking this. I had to get another one of those. I think I have one over there. But that's for the spray, the windshield washer fluid. Accumulator. So accumulator was, you had to pull this line, and then there's a clip. You pull that piece out. That tab you pull out, and then it pops up. And there's a nut down here. You loosen that, and then there was one nut on the body over here, and then I believe that was it. So that's what it looks like. So it just says the 2 connections to the AC lines, and then there was a couple bolts. Then it came out pretty easy. Those hoses are flexible, which I wasn't sure when I had the one nut still on it. It seemed like I needed it out before I could do anything, but this hose was flexible. I thought I had to do something with that, but this guy wasn't sitting in front of my house with his compressor running. But here's the inside. Wish this wasn't so zoomed in. With the dashboard, there's two nuts on this side, 2 bolts, 3 bolts on the top, and 2 nuts on the opposite side. Bolts, 13 millimeter, I think, were on the ends, and then it was like an 8 on the top. Right there's the steering wheel linkage. That was like a 10 millimeter, and then that popped free. Have your steering wheel locked at the time so it doesn't move. There's your heater core sticking out. That's the heater core right there. That's your evaporator inside. You're gonna have to pull these nuts up here, along with what I said at the firewall, to get this free. I wasn't sure when I pulled it out, but there's a duct right here. I just kind of forced it out to get it out. But there's two 8mm bolts underneath, and you can pull the piece off that connects to that. I didn't figure that out until I was putting it back in, and it was way more difficult to get back in than get it out. And it made it way easier because everything lined up straight when you push it in instead of trying to pull it in at an angle. But, yeah, so that's how you pull that out. Once all those are free, that should pull out. That computer box at the top, the CPU, that will stay in there. That just kind of holds it in place, but it doesn't pull it with it. So you don't have to worry about that. I disconnected the bolts on the other side of the firewall doing that because I wasn't sure. But it will stay in there, so you don't have to really worry about that pulling out with it. There's not really any other electrical connections with it. Oh, there were 4. When you pull the dash, there's 4 connectors. I believe I just pulled it slightly and then disconnected them. There's little guide bars. You don't have to worry about it falling too much. Just be aware when you're done with the day, you're not going to be able to really close your door with the dash out like this. So I've had to put this on and off like 4 times. So just, I can't work on it anymore. And I kept getting new parts and whatever. But just so you know, you might have to put the dash on and off, depending how much time you can work in each session, etc. If you got it in the garage. But yeah, that's how you pull all that. You got your there's this that was the blend door. That was 4 screws, 8mm. You gotta pull that arm off. No one really specified that. I just kind of worked it off a little bit. I don't know. I ended up snapping the plastic piece on the bottom, so I'm gonna have to try to just glue that back on because it just guides it. Hopefully that'll work, or I'll have to replace something. But pulling all that, if you're just doing the heater core, you could just pull the lines, you open that door right there, and then you could push it out from the firewall and it'll slide right out, and try to tilt it up so you don't spill too much coolant on the ground in the car. But the heater core is pretty simple. As far as pulling the lines is the hardest part. And the evaporator is a way different story. But if you pull the whole box out, you'll see these nuts all the way around. Just once you get it out, just keep looking around and find all the bolts around the edge right here, and just take all those out. Then you got these clips all around. I kind of took a screwdriver and just pulled it up a little bit just to get it out. But I had to pull the top, that piece off at the blower. There was like 4 bolts for that or something like that, which pulled that piece off. There was one hidden bolt like that underneath in like the corner underneath it, so that might be hidden. Be aware of that. Like you can see, if you're pulling that, this is connecting over here to here, so you're going to want to pull that piece. But yeah, I mean, once you have it out, you can just kind of figure out what connects to what and just get it to separate. And then you got your there's your evaporator. So once you spread it apart, that kind of pulls up. It's got kind of a slot there, so it has a little room to slide once you're pulling it out. Except for there's just these insulators in between that you have to get out. Once you're replacing it, you're gonna have to wrap it in some insulating foam. I got this one roll at Home Depot. It was like $10 at Home Depot for one roll. And I was able to do the heater core and the evaporator. Just try to mimic however it is when you pull it out. Just try to copy that so it has insulation everywhere it's originally had it. Believe that's pretty much it. Everything's just taken apart, put it back together. I think figuring out how to pull that out and pull that whole box out and get the lines off was the hardest part by far, because I wasn't sure. I had no book or anything to go off of, and I was just like, did I have something else to disconnect or what? But it ends up just being those 3 nuts and then all the hoses and everything. I'll try to find it, and I'm like, is there one more nut hidden? And then I'd find one more. So one trick I found after just about giving up on this heater core and everything, because I couldn't get those lines off. I was originally going to try to go through the bottom because everyone was saying it was so difficult, and I thought maybe I could get a better view from the bottom, so I went underneath, and it was not easier at all. So the top is definitely easier. You just got to work your way in. Maybe take apart some of this, made it a lot easier. But what I ended up doing was I got one of my picks, and then I put it in there, and then you want to hook it around once you get the clamps off, hook it around the hose. Like, see, there's a hose over here. You're going to hook it like around the back, and then just kind of work it around, and it'll break it loose. And then you can pull them off, because they'll be stuck on there. So that helped a lot. Luckily, that bottom AC line pulled off no problem for me, because that would have been a pain, because it's in a tough spot. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Leave a like if this helped you. Alright, have fun with that.